Hi. Okay, I think it's officially 9 p.m. We can begin. Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Karishma. Is everybody able to hear me all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So my name is Karishma. You can call me Karishma. You can call me Gary. I am one of the visiting facilitators for this workshop on decision making, business decision making for XAT. Before we begin, a couple of things. If in case there's any digital problem or if there's a problem with my camera or something, you can just very quickly let me know and I'll try and fix it. If there's a network issue, we can just wait for a few seconds and it usually sorts itself out. And I will be sharing my screen for the rest of the workshop. So if you have something, feel free to use the raise hand button. I hope that everybody knows where that is. If you don't, it's on the bottom bar, just next to the share screen button, there's a button for reactions. If you press on it, the first option is raise hand. So all you have to do is press it, I will see it, we will interact, and then you can lower your hand. Okay. Right. So to begin, this is going to be a fairly interactive workshop because otherwise it's just going to be me talking for 2 hours and nobody wants that. It's too late for that. So I would like all of you to be ready to unmute yourselves or even switch on the video when you want, whenever you want to talk about something, or if there's something that I'm talking about and you want to discuss it or whatever, doubts, questions, queries, comments, everything is welcome. Keep it live. Otherwise, it will be a bit of a drag. What we are doing today is working on a section in the XAT exams, which is this business decision making. I understand that you've already had a workshop on it with Massey.
Yes, sir.
So?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. So you're already clear on the basics, on what the section is, what it entails, things like that. So we're not going to waste any time looking at that. We're going to jump right into the masala. I will now share my screen and we can get started. All right. I think we are okay here. I'm not sure how many people are supposed to attend, but there's quite a few, and I think we can go ahead and get started and hope that people join in soon. Okay, right. So decision making. Let's first talk about just the things that we know, the things which are common, fairly well known by all of you as well. So, business DMs. Now, I think a good place to start when you want to think about why we are attempting a certain section in a test is to ask why a particular test maker will include a certain section. So in this case, that happens to be business decision making. Does anybody want to venture a guess why this section is involved in the paper?
Because at the end, like we are going to do MBA, we are going to be in such situations. So they are just saying that how we cope up and what is our mindset for these situation scenarios and how we tackle them.
Yep, that's exactly what it is, because it's one of those things that is mirroring real life. So it's not even something outside the scope of what you're going to do ultimately. So I think that's actually a really good thing, because the kind of range that this test involves and the way that it exposes you to real life business problems is a fantastic way to put you in that mode already. So a few things which I'm sure you already know, but we're going to go through them just to try and prep ourselves to solve some questions. A few things that we have seen over the years in business DM is what I've written down here. So if you look at the bottom here, the crawler, it's got a total of 21 questions, sometimes split into 7 sets of 3 questions, and other times in other varying cadences. Although recently I have seen that sometimes there's just one paragraph and then it has one question in it, and that's it. It's a short case study. But more often than not, I think it's sets of longish reading text, and then they have 3 questions based on that. Those of you who have been practicing, do you know or can you tell if the 3 questions based on the same study, are they also related or interrelated, or do you think that they are independent?
Independent questions generally.
Yeah. So it is very possible that you have the premise, you have, the set of facts that you need to begin thinking about the problem, so to speak. And then you have each question exploring different aspect of that profession or that scenario, what have you. So the first thing that we obviously know is they're case-based tasks, and some of them are taken from, case study, caselets like the Harvard and Yale schools are known to release, and some other are, in a way, not copied, but, mild imitations of case studies that already exist. But ultimately, it is a case study-based task. And these are subjective cases. Now, when we say subjective in this context, it's a little bit different from when we talk about objective in terms of people. Can anybody think about how this will be subjective or how we're using this term here?
It's basically tackling a situation. So it could be like I can think in another manner, and someone else could be having a different mindset, and he could tackle the same situation in another manner. So that would make it subjective.
Ma'am,
Right.
if the cases are subjective, why aren't the answers options given to us not subjective and objective? Why are they asking us to select but not give our own opinion?
That's exactly why I wanted to talk about why I'm saying subjective here, because the person who spoke beforehand, they gave us a definition of what subjective and objective mean when we're talking about individual people and their preferences, but that's not it. Subjective means that a certain case can affect different businesses differently. So there is no blanket logic and there is no blanket ethic. There's no blanket principle that applies to everything. There are certain policies in place which you can pretty much rely upon, the goodness of people doing the right thing, so stuff like that. But every industry has its own subjective set of problems, and they can range from individual struggles in a workplace to teamwork problems to, even problems at a larger scale, just for a whole company or a brand. And that's how we mean that they're subjective. So you cannot go in thinking that every problem is pretty much going to be the same thing, so I know what to do. I hope that clarifies it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Coming to the next option, just below it, it's business ethics. So really, it just brings the whole thing down to what it is that we are looking to arrive at collectively, and that's business ethics. Again, a huge blanket term for lots of things that fall under this category. All you have to remember is that ethics itself is a very loose term when you think about it in terms of real life, but here, things are a little bit simpler. And I'll tell you why. Let's go to the next 2 options. You've got 1 or 2 plausible choices. I'm not saying that they're possible choices. They're all possible choices in different scenarios, but the ones which are more plausible are the ones which are universally accepted best solutions. So it's not something that you might like to do. It's not something that I might like to do, or I might find more suitable. It's something that most people would typically say yes to. And that's your universally accepted best solution. So 1 or 2 plausible choices will be there. And how to differentiate between them and how to finally make your choice, that's something we'll look at when we're reading the actual questions. But ultimately just boils down to the right thing to do. And really that's it. And the right thing is not subjective, like in the other sense. It's the right thing for, the larger number of people. So the greater good, so to speak. And these are some of the patterns that we keep seeing in business DM. Are there any questions at this point? All right. So we're going to move on to looking at some common question types. Have a look. Right. So just from looking at these categories, you can probably, maybe you're thinking of some of the DMs that you've already solved. And they're not really groundbreaking categories. It's just that it's easier to separate them and also to remind yourself that not every question is going to have similar or a similar set of problems. So if you're looking at professional rivalry, don't just think of, a colleague not liking another colleague. That is, of course, part of it, but there's so much more happening there. There could be competition, there could be performance issues, there could be appraisal troubles, there could be promotions, transfers, things like that. So a lot of things that get roped up into the professional rivalry category, but it is a very rich category to have. And it's also, I think, something that people can relate to very quickly. On the other hand, you've got work-home imbalance. So I have a bit of a hypothetical, quick oral exercise for you. Let's say there's somebody who has just had a child, and their parental leave is not allowing them to stay back home, and the child needs a little bit of extra care because it's a prenatal baby. So this will be something that needs to be escalated to the superior or the manager or the policy or the policymakers or the HR team. Something needs to happen on the work front for the employee, to strike a work-home balance. However, if somebody is thinking about having a child and not able to have it, maybe they have some problems, some, reproductive organ issues, and this is causing them stress, and it's causing them to also, it's also causing their work to be affected. That is not a business ethics problem. Can somebody explain to me why? Let me know if you need me to repeat anything. Anyone?
Just taking a short minute, maybe like in the second scenario, like there could be, it's not something that like it's a pressure on him, the person, or it's like some depression or that thing which can't be proved as such. But like having a kid who needs care, it is like a fact which is present there. There could be many reasons. Like someday I come up like, okay, I'm facing this issue. I also need some support and all that. So it could be difficult for the company to quantify such scenarios.
Yeah, you're not wrong in saying that. I think that's definitely a consideration that a company will also undertake. However, the answer is much simpler. If the stress is not being caused by the workplace, then it's not something that we will come across in DM questions. It's not something that needs to be solved at the workplace level, right? The person needs to recognize that they're going through something stressful. They need to make certain changes. They need to make adjustments, whatever it is. But that person's employer or manager is not going to make too much of a difference in that discourse, because it's mental health struggles or it's stress. It's something that's very, very personal to a person. And most importantly, work is not causing it. So I hope that little thought experiment clarifies what counts as work-home balance or work-home imbalance, and which kind of problems you are more likely to face in the business DM section. Moving on, you've got senior subordinate issues. These will be more around power struggle, but it could also be something deeper than that. That depends on the quality of the question. I have noticed that sometimes the questions are rather daft. They're just a little too simple. And sometimes they're the kind of ethical problem that you yourselves don't know how to solve, and then you just kind of have to choose an option that is good enough because the others aren't good enough. I'm here to tell you that that's okay, as long as you get the right answer, right? And of course, you've got your classic ethical dilemma, to do or not to do. And this can get a bit colorful because you definitely need to reach down a little bit and think about what is the right thing to do. Teamwork concerns, again, lots of things to happen here. Very interesting stuff. Here also you get to learn a lot about different positions that people hold, different role profiles, and what kind of issues can actually arise when you're working with a smaller or big team. And of course, a smaller portion, but definitely a present portion, is that of logistical problems, where you've got people in procurement or liaison or recruitment, all sorts of things, which are more logistical in nature, but they can also have real concerns. So these are some of the common question types. It's definitely not an exhaustive list, but the floor is now open for anybody who would like to add a category if I've forgotten any, or if you have an observation to make. The mic's open. All right, if there's nothing, then let me set the stage for what's going to happen next. On the screen now, I'll start putting up one case study at a time. So because of the restrictions of our screen here, I can't share too much text because it'll be difficult for you to read. So what I'll do is first I'll put up the premise of the case study. I'll give you a few minutes to read. After we have read it, we're going to have a quick chat just to understand that we're on the same page and we have tried to identify what problems might arise. Even if there are no problems, we can just quickly have a discussion to make sure that we understand how to approach reading a case study, what to focus on, what not to focus on. And then there will be 3 questions on each of them. On each slide, there will be the question, and then there will be 5 options. And of course, I'll reveal the answers as we discuss. So at any point, if you want me to go back to the case study, all you have to do is ask. Okay?
Yes,
all right. Great. Thank you. Here's the first one coming up. You have a few minutes to read this. A few more seconds. All right. Are we finished reading? Okay, I'm going to leave this on the screen while we discuss. And in the meantime, everybody who's still reading can finish reading. Um, you will notice in every premise that there is something is there and something has been there, and then there's a change that's happening. So my question here is, what is the change here?
Research has been made up like a parameter for promotions, for confirmation and all that, which wasn't earlier the case.
Yes. And there is a term that has been introduced. What is the term about the newly recruited faculty members?
Social outreach.
No.
Not quite. Look at the middle of the premise.
Probation
There is
period.
a. Yeah. What is it? How long is it?
3
years.
years.
3 years. Yeah. So, yes, probation, either they're confirmed or their probation is extended or their services are terminated based on teaching and research. This is very clear. And we want to pay attention to this because this is going to become a defining factor. And this you can go ahead and find in each of the case studies that you come across. You will always have something that is changing, something that is altered, and that's why usually problems or issues occur. So here, this is one key thing. Another key thing is a new character being introduced. So for us, that is Aparna. Yeah. And as you can see, there is already a little bit of setup that is being built here, that Aparna joined the social sciences department. She got deeply involved in the social outreach. And the last line tells us something very essential, which is that even though her social outreach program has given her lots of, satisfaction, there is nothing in terms of research that she has done. And we've just learned that has become a key factor in getting confirmed as a teacher. And her confirmation is due in a year because she's been here for 2 years. All right, let's look at the first question, everyone. Unless anybody wants me to stay on this page. All right. Right. If you've read the question stem right here, I'd like you to pause before solving the question. And something that we want to start building as a habit is, well, 2 things. The first one is to pay attention to the stem of the question, which is this part right here, which are the following actions. This tells you the scope of the question, and that's very helpful because sometimes the scope of the question is very standard. It just asks you to choose the best option, whatever works here. Sometimes it gives you better conditions. In this case, the better conditions are that you have to choose an option that best helps the dean in achieving the objective, that of being, being able to communicate to the new faculty recruits that research is essential, while being fair to Aparna, and that's where the ethical problem or the ethical dilemma has been introduced. So when you keep in mind the kind of question stem you're working for, it gives you better opportunities to quickly eliminate the options that just don't work. That's point 1. The second thing is to look at the verb, the first word of each of the options. I like doing this just to set the tone of what kind of answer I'm going for and to quickly eliminate options that just don't serve me. So here we're thinking about being fair to Aparna, and we're thinking about giving the dean a very good option to communicate the new policy changes. So the first word here is appreciate, which is okay. The second is extend. That means bending the rules a little bit. The third is suggesting. Okay, not bad. The fourth is exhort. Do people know what the meaning of the word is? Exhort. Okay. Anybody who does not know? All right, great. So, can you tell me whether it's a positive word or a negative word then? Or does it have positive or negative connotations?
Negative.
Negative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think? Should we keep this option in the running or should we just kind of
We
let
should
it be?
discard it.
Trap it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay. And then you have increase. So now, out of appreciating, extending, suggesting, and increasing, we'll think about what the options is actually are actually asking us to do. Why don't you go ahead and have a look, and then we will have a quick discussion. All right. Any initial guesses? Okay, I'm going to walk you through this question because we do have some really good questions coming up. This is on the low stakes category. Now we're thinking about the fact that Aparna has not done the research that is required of her to get a confirmation, and this is black and white. There is no gray area here. The gray area comes in when we consider the fact that it's also true that she's been doing really well with the social outreach, and that is also part of the, commendability and the performance. And the dean doesn't want, there is no indication so far that the dean wants to force Aparna to do anything. And that's also part of the reason why we eliminated option D. So looking at the first option, to appreciate the fact that Aparna has tried something, but also to tell her in no unclear terms, to advise her that research and teaching contributions are essential. So this is pretty much just a straightforward thing to do. The question is this the only thing that we can do, or are there any other better options available? So let's find out. Extending probation by additional year, reminding her about the research. Do you see the switch that happens in between A and B? In A, we are appreciating, we're doing something good, and then along with that, we're giving a piece of advice. Whereas in B, we're not really appreciating anything, we're not acknowledging anything, and we are reminding her. Is advice on a higher level, or is reminder on a higher level in terms of how important they are?
Reminder.
Reminder is on a higher level?
Sorry, what was the question again?
The question is, would an advice be more impactful for a person, or would a reminder be more impactful?
Reminder.
Okay, why is that?
It helps her so that she knows what her responsibility is. Maybe that's why.
I think in general scenario it would be advice, but like if it's just near the deadline or something, then it could be a reminder.
Okay, that's a good way to put it.
Ma'am, actually, it's reminder is like a repetition of something. I have already advised you, and it's just a reminder of it. Advice can be the first time.
Okay, so what would you say, Pramit? Would advice be on a higher level than reminder then, based on your definition?
Reminder seems a bit more serious than advice. Advice is like a more gentle tone, and reminder is a more serious note.
Okay, good. Yes, that is good. So all of what you're saying is actually correct, and this is where you're coming in with your subjective understanding of the word reminder, and maybe how you've been reminded in life. Yes.
I
Someone
guess it
speaking.
also, depends from whom the advice or reminder is coming from. Like if
Mhm.
it's in an office, if it's coming from the HR department, then it would be a reminder. But if it's coming from your boss, then advice would make more sense.
Yes, you are correct. The source of the advice and the reminder also matters. In this case, what would the source be? It would be the dean, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So that is
So,
why I went with advice.
hmm. Yeah, and you would be correct. So while all of you are saying that reminders have, a bit of an urgency to it, they're more connected to the immediacy of things. You're correct. But in this case, it's more about the source of these two things. And while reminder might do the job for now, but I think I think more than looking at the timeline here, we're looking at the possibility of Aparna understanding the importance because she has had the time, and I'm sure that she has had reminders from the context, but the advice might give her the right kind of boost that she needs. Um, okay. Um, on a similar path, you've got suggesting Aparna to start looking for a new job. Oh gosh, why so cruel? Okay, I hope that none of something like that doesn't happen in real life because that's awful. Just tell her to go look for a new job. Did anybody at all think that that was a good option? Say no. Say no. Okay. Um, and then finally, you've got increase her teaching and research requirements while extending her probation period for 2 years. And now we have, this is the time that I want to talk about two really important things, which I like to think of as, like the two poles that hold decision making together. But before that, I'd like to invite somebody to explain to me and to everybody else how option E sounds.
Well, she's already not able to put up with the work that she's supposed to do. How are you supposed to give her more work and then be like, do it in more time? But more work would she will definitely not be able to do that. That's unreasonable.
Except that they are extending the probation period. So don't you think that would be a bit of a lax thing for her?
Increase is still an increase. She has still not done the pending work, which is from the past. She would still have to do that. And then there's an increase.
Yeah. It's absolutely true.
Uh,
So, yes.
isn't it a bit too much bending rules for her? Kind of.
Very good. It fully is. Yeah. Anybody else? Anything else?
Yeah, so like increasing the probation period and giving more work does not assure that she will be able to do everything because she has not completed and 2/3 of her work is all time is already completed. So
Yeah.
like it's not a surety.
Yes. So here, I want to introduce the concept of setting a precedent. Sorry. Setting a precedent is one of two really important things or two really important functions. Like I said, two poles for decision making. When you're thinking about doing these things, like somebody very correctly pointed out that it's bending the rules a little too much for one person, and there is no reason for it. It's not like she's done something already and she's struggling against time but still working. She's actually not done the work that she's supposed to have done. So whenever you're thinking about choosing an option or looking for the right answer, you first want to ask yourself, what is the precedent that this will set for the others? So in this case, let's say Aparna promises that she's going to do all of her teaching work, she's going to finish everything that's pending, she's going to do her research, complete her research requirements. But if that keeps happening for one person, or that happens for one person, then what is stopping what is stopping everybody else to go and ask for the same, laxities, same leniency, same extension, same probation period, leniency? Nothing. So it sets the wrong precedent. Yeah. And that brings us back to A and B, out of which I think the option is now quite clear. Yes, it's A. Okay, there's no responses, so I'm going to tell you that this is A. Is anybody facing any doubt or lack of clarity here?
Could we go back to the case for a second? Here it mentions the probation period can be extended. In what way, like what would be a scenario it would be okay to extend it then if that's a bad precedent when it is an option to us?
Maybe could be like a family emergency or a medical condition that is unavoidable. Something like a pandemic where things just cannot go on. I think these would be extenuating circumstances, what we typically term as unforeseen and uncontrollable circumstances. But this is clearly not an uncontrollable
Yes, ma'am.
circumstance. This is just failing to do your work.
Yes, ma'am. Got it.
The other reason for like not like all this probation extending the probation is not valid, I guess, because like it is for 3 years. So still she has an year to go, and like she can do miracle in that 1 year. So the extending things goes out of picture anyways, right?
Yeah, I have no comments there. That's fully okay. Cool. So then everybody in unison that we are okay with option A. We're going to move on to the next question. Okay. This time, I'd like you to go ahead and consider the options. If you want, you can chat amongst yourselves. I'm going to be on mute for the next minute or so, and then we will discuss together. All right, let's hear some initial choices. Anyone?
Oh, ma'am, are you not looking at chat? There's multiple responses.
Oh gosh,
Yes,
no,
ma'am.
because my screen.
That's all right. I'm like,
Oh, gosh, thank you.
oh, it's fine.
Oh, it's because I was maximized on the screen because of the
There's a lot of
presentation.
replies there.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much for that. Okay, this is right now 9:39 p.m. Oh, okay. So you've got B or D. I'm sorry. How do I know you? How do I pronounce your name?
Just Pox.
Pucks. Okay, pucks. So you think it's B or D. There's lots of D's. All right, some B's in there. A or D. Confused between D and A in paper would go with A. So, all right, that's all of the options, guys. That's great. That's all of the options. Okay, for the sake of simplicity for now, I think I will leave this window as is and try and maximize it as much as I can. Let me know if that is okay. Is this okay? The text is readable for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So I'll leave it like that so that I can also monitor the chat. Right. So once again, I would like to bring your attention down to the stem of the question, which says, we're looking at an action that the dean can now undertake, which will be the most sustainable given the circumstances. That is two conditions in the question, which is one, you're looking for an option that doesn't just give you a way out for now. It gives you a way out, or it gives you a solution which will be sustained. And that simply means setting a good precedent. And also considering the circumstances in which one new element has been introduced, and that is of the chief minister of the state wanting Aparna to be more present in the social outreach. So that's something that we're not going to compromise on. Okay, Nandini is now choosing A as well. Okay, let's also now quickly look at the verbs like I taught you to in the previous question. You've got confirmation, offering, extending, and declaration. So if we go ahead and confirm Aparna, but freeze her increments and promotions until her research contributions are as per the expected standards, what sort of message does that send out to Aparna herself?
Yeah, it says like we don't give much precedent to the social outreach work you have done. So that is one thing you need to focus more on the things which are present before you. Even if this chief minister is saying it's good, we don't consider it.
Shows that
Yeah.
But on the contrary, like I thought like they are confirming still because she hasn't done her research work, but still they are confirming her as a staff teacher, whatever. And so that they are considering that aspect that she is being doing social work. And but like they have their own criteria of research work also. So that's like they have other caveat that you do the
I
research work
think
and we can have a promotion and increments.
they're doing to save the public image, but at the same time, in the other hand, they are freezing our increments, so which is wrong in that way.
Exactly.
And she can go on. Yeah, like
Sorry, say that again.
If they do not increase her or give any promotion, she can go on and join any other institution which will give her better opportunities than here.
Very good. Yeah, thinking ahead. That's absolutely what needs to happen here because we're looking at, see, let's not forget that Aparna is also a conscientious human being. She's an employee. Paras says, plus her worth as a social outreach will decrease. Yeah, exactly. Because it'll make it sound like, well, yeah, you're good that you're doing all of that social work, but you're not doing your work, so we're not going to give you any increments or promotions. We're going to keep you there. So that's actually pretty awful. And just by using the phrase confirm Aparna in the beginning, they're giving you a great red herring, a great false clue, which you might fall for if you're, let's say, in a hurry or if you've already got your mind made up. But let's not do that for now. So we're going to keep A in the running because it does seem like the plan might work, but we can see that there are some loopholes. Now, offer to create a non-teaching position. What kind of a precedent does this set? For people who chose B, I would like you to maybe forward your reasoning here.
Well, she was not able to meet her criteria. She was terminated from the teaching, but the dean did give her an option to act as an outreach officer.
Right.
So I feel like since she's not been performing for the last 2 years and then also this year also, she's not been performing. So they have and since she's doing good in other fields, so they just decide to open another position itself. So in that way, it does not send a bad message to the other employees as well. And
Okay, go on.
I think in that sense, it seems like that's why I chose B. Not sure.
Okay, and
Ma'am,
fair enough. Yeah, go ahead.
ma'am, but it will send a wrong message to the other peoples that if we don't perform, we will get another position like this. That's the way
Yeah,
Aparna has got.
yeah, or that we're gonna
No,
get
ma'am.
terminated.
Wouldn't that
But
also happen in A
but
then?
no,
But
but
they
ma'am,
didn't.
No,
But they didn't.
ma'am,
Okay,
to
let's go
perform this
one by one.
exceptionally well.
Let's
Ma'am,
go one by one. Could you raise your hand as well if you'd like to say something?
So no, I mean what I'm trying to say is like the other employees, other faculty members, they are not. It's not mentioned that they are working towards this social outreach at all. So if I mean if they were working, then maybe that possibility would have occurred that why are we not being given such an opportunity? But since
Right. So here,
Yeah.
okay. Is there more to your point?
No, please go on.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to quickly nip this in the bud because this sort of thinking does not really lead to productive answers because we're saying there is no indication that other people are on that path, but also there isn't that they aren't.
but
Right? So we
ma'am,
can't assume that.
like
So
everybody,
Varnika raised her hand.
can I speak?
Okay.
Is that Varnika?
Uh,
So let's
no,
hear
I'm
Varnika
Smriti.
first and then. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Vanika, you can go on.
Yeah, and then we'll come back to you, Smriti.
So my point is a bit different from what we were discussing on. So maybe we can first finish this off. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Smriti, go ahead, please.
Like everybody is saying that it will set a wrong precedence for the other people. My point is just opposite, that it might be a good precedence for other people because she is she is not doing her job, but she is doing exceptionally well in some other field. But she's doing so well that the chief minister came in to appreciate her. So this might create a good precedence for other, that even if you're not doing your work, you're so good at something else which is coming out useful, not something not useful. I mean,
Sure.
yeah. So that thus I chose option B.
Right.
It
But does
makes
that
sense.
still, okay, Pravit, I see you. Give me a second. Does that still justify being terminated from the teaching position? So as long as we are discussing precedents, what sort of a precedent does that set for other people who might be on the same path? A
She
very
was
scary one.
terminated. She was terminated because she was not doing her work and she was not good at it, but she could do something else. So we gave her totally that position that you should, just leave out what you're not able to do and focus give all your attention to something which you're good at.
Okay, so I'll quickly counter that by saying that now we're starting to create a story or a backstory for Aparna, which we do not have. All we know is that she is a teaching employee and she's involved in social outreach programs. These are the two pieces of information we have. Based on that, we cannot now predict her future or predict her past or even predict and assume any other skills she might have. Okay, so we're gonna keep it very, very controlled. Yeah.
Okay.
Pramit, you go first, and then we'll go to Krishna and Karan. Could you adjust your microphone a little bit?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
So I personally chose D. And for B, I was telling that it is hampering the business part of the decision. Means, after all, the institution, it is not serving their purpose. The social outreach, I guess, is not for that institution particularly. It's for the COVID situation and all. So it's not exactly serving their purpose.
Yeah. And it is the dean. The dean can't just go and become friends with Aparna. He or she, I think it's a he. Yeah, it's a he. So he cannot just take decisions based on one person's professional or semi-professional growth. Okay, thank you for that. Krishna?
Ma'am, the reason why I chose B is like in this question, we have two concerns. One is to set an example for outside the world, and one we have to set an example for the people inside the college. So for that, I guess this is a complete win-win for both the situations where the dean terminates Aparna from the teaching position, yet keeping the image of the college in front of the world positive wise, that he doesn't terminate Aparna altogether from the college. So I guess that's a total win for me. And just keeping in the context of this question, like not going or building any story beyond this, just keeping those two important points which have been asked in this question. I guess this satisfies both those points.
I take your point, but I will say that one tweet, talking about how quickly her position was terminated, even though the chief minister praised her for her extracurricular activities, and the whole teaching world will be afire. So probably not something that would serve as a win for internal teaching staff, who will hear about this and say, "Oh my God, we're just going to get terminated if we don't do the work here." So that's not something that we can.
So at least Dean has to think of his background as well. Like if the things are not going well in his infrastructure, so he has to take some actions, and he can't go always lenient to every other situation, right? Obviously, this is an unprecedented or completely exceptional, like obviously being appreciated by the chief minister himself.
However, I will differ here that there is no exception here. The situation is not very exceptional, is it? The exception only is of that, that Aparna has been appreciated a lot, and that's great.
So exactly, that is the exception. Like I don't think it is very easy to be appreciated by a CM or something like that. For at least if you're doing some social work. I mean, there are a lot many people, even general people can also do some social work, but being appreciated by an
I think we're adding story. I think we're adding a story now to right. Hold on. So we're gonna keep this option in the running, since a lot of people seem to be big fans of it. Neil says Neil has a very good point that if other faculty members also do something similar, then we can't go around and start creating new positions for them, and that also sets a bad precedent. And Rishabh agrees. In the end, it might, exactly. And you do want to remember that these responsibilities first and foremost to his institution. So, all right, some great votes for B. We don't even know if the college needs that position at all. Fair, yeah, exactly. I mean, the possibility of this happening for this one person who has just not been doing their work is a little out there for now. Okay, we're going to move on, though, otherwise we'll get stuck on one question. Another one is offered upon a 5-year contractual position, after which she has to leave irrespective. Now, this doesn't teach her anything. This doesn't give her the what's the word I'm looking for? The incentive to work better. This doesn't push her to correct her ways. It just lets her do what she's doing exactly the way she's doing it. So C is not something that we want to consider too seriously. D is extend the probation, which we do know is a possibility, but the extenuating circumstances here play a part. And tell her that she would have to leave if her research and teaching do not improve in that period. How do people feel about this option? I know that there were quite a few Ds as well. If I scroll up. Yeah. Okay, Krishna, you've already been once, so let's have Varnika once, and then we can come back to you.
Yeah, ma'am. So I chose D because I think it goes perfectly with the question. So the dean's objective is to meet his criteria as well as to appease the outer world. And this does it perfectly because not only, he's not compromising with the college's needs, and neither is he letting Aparna's other contribution get ignored. Suffer. So since the probation, extending the probation is allowed, and this is an unusual circumstance. So if we extend the Aparna's probation, it is appreciating her and giving her more time to actually do the work that was required of her.
Yes, and also setting a very clear condition that this is the last and the only extension she might get. And after that, it's over if she does not do the research and teaching. So it's also not giving her a free way, to do what she likes. Okay, Krishna?
Ma'am, I didn't raise my hand, I guess.
Oh, your hand is,
You forgot
can
to
you
put it
lower it
down.
then? Yeah. All right. Yes. And then finally, we've got declare that Aparna's extraordinary achievement deserves to be treated exceptionally. Well, yeah, that's, I'm not going to consider her. If somebody wants to consider it, then tell me why. Okay. No, nobody thinks that it should be E, right? Because it's such a grand statement that it's so extraordinary that now she's above all policy and rules. That's just not how you do it. So the answer here is indeed D, and that is because by doing what D suggests, nobody is bending the rules backward for her alone. They're doing something, keeping in view that something good will happen on both the public social outreach platform and within the teaching community as well. And they're still setting a very clear ground rule saying that you have to do what you're supposed to do. We understand that you're doing really well in the social outreach program and that you're getting acknowledged and all of that. And we do understand and acknowledge that it's coming back to the college in a positive way as well. So we do want you around. And that's why in each of these questions, there is a paragraph clearly saying that the dean understands how important Aparna's achievements are. But at the same time, he cannot keep making excuses or allowances for her alone. So this fixes both the problems. It does not set a bad precedent. This can be done again for somebody who shines this way and still needs to do the work that needs to be done. And so it's D. Any final questions or shall we move on? Okay, so then we have the final one. Oh. Good, good. Keep going. I'm sorry about my cat. It's her bedtime and she will call out to me. If you hear her, please excuse it. Thank you. Okay, looks like we've got lots of A's, one E. A always seems pretty abstract. Oh, I want to hear first from Pramit for his choice of E and then from Varchasva about what is abstract about A. That's intriguing. Okay, Pramit.
Actually, I thought of A, but in the end, I thought that to emphasize that she could focus on research to get confirmed means actually the dean is not obeying the academic council. Means in a way he is going against the advice of the academic council. I mean, in a soft way they have advised, but the dean is
How is
probably
he going
not,
against?
because means the academic council urges the dean to review the faculty confirmation policy because they are worried that Aparna may not fulfill the criteria of research and thus she may not get confirmed, and the academic council wants her to get confirmed. But the dean is making it specific to her that if she does not focus on research, she will not get confirmed. Means the confirmation is still not happening. Still she focuses on research.
Yeah, because it's only been a few months. So she still has
Means-
time. The
I
timeline
thought
is telling us.
is it the timeline is from the start or is at the towards the end after 2 years, a few months
No,
later? That's
no. After the 2 years, this is in the last year. So we started at the end of 2 years, and we had a year left. And I think this is within. Not I think I know that this is within those few months of the last year.
yeah. I thought that means still there will be a chance that she won't get confirmed, and that's why I
Yeah,
chose that.
and which is why her. So then her contract will come to an end, and then they will see what they have to do. Maybe they will choose the option that we chose in the previous question, which is D, of giving her a probation extension. We'll see. But see, the problem is the option, the word confirm here. Did I miss somebody else's? Yes, I wanted to know why Varshasva thought A is abstract. So could you just quickly tell us?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good
Ma'am,
evening.
although A is obviously better than the rest of the options, but the part that, however, emphasizes that she should focus on research to get confirmed seems pretty abstract. As it is, it not very practical. Like the dean is just saying that although everybody knows that she hasn't followed up her work, yet just saying it or emphasizing it, yeah, you should do your work. It is not something that would make her set her ways. Like I believe that.
You're right. And you know why that is? Because we're all adults here. They're all adults in this case study. So nobody can hold anybody's ear, nobody can twist anybody's arm, and that's just what it is. This is the most you can do to adults working or not working. You can just tell them, hey, if you don't work, you're not gonna have this job for very long. That's what they're doing.
You can just emphasize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the answer indeed is A here. And that's because it again does not set any bad precedents. It gives the dean the opportunity to get Aparna to fix her ways as best he can. It also serves this line right here. However, because the dean believes that any change in the policy will be a step back to the institute's aspirations of becoming a global research leader, and he doesn't want to give that up. So he's also correct in not wanting to immediately take very stern action. And for those of you who were confused with E, the only problem is of confirmation. See, if she hasn't already done the work that she's supposed to have done by now, then the maximum that we can do is give her a probation extension, but we can't confirm her. That's actually giving her that firm job. That's giving her tenure. We can't do that. That will actually go against the dean's policy and the entire, employee plan. So the answer is A here. Did anybody need me to explain or walk them through B, C, and D, or are they fairly clear on why these are not the answers? Awesome. Thank you, Mehakpreet.
Ma'am, one thing that how is the dean then taking into consideration the advice of the academic council? If that is needed at all.
No, it is. So see, the advice of the council is simply to urge the dean. It's not even an advice, it's an urge, it's an appeal that he review the faculty confirmation. But the reasoning has not been done. See, the thing is, when people in power, they set certain policies or rules, or they make changes, they do it for the good of the greater population of which they are in charge. So just because something like this is happening with one person does not warrant such a big change. The dean should not have to consider even such an option. And while he's respecting the academic council's appeal, he's also thinking about what it will mean for the policy to change yet another time in such a short span of time for one person. What message will that send out to the public? I hope that answers your question. All right, thank you. So that's yes.
Why would E be a wrong answer? Like, I mean, I get. Is it like not relevant to the question, or?
No, it is relevant. It is relevant. It is it's actually leaving a step, which is that of what we discussed in the previous question, that is of giving her probationary time as an extension so that she can mend her ways and get back on track. So instead, it's directly going to confirming Aparna as a teacher, which is the whole problem. You cannot confirm her without her research and teaching being up to date. And for that, there is an option of giving her more probationary period where she can do it. But why would we go ahead and confirm her and then give her this very strongly worded caveat that make it clear that her future promotions will be tied to her research contribution? I mean, it is understood. But why give her the confirmation and then give her this condition? Either don't just don't confirm her, give her more probation, or tell her to go right now. And this is the same thing that we faced in the first question as well.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
All right, good work, guys. That's one case study down. A few more to go. Let's keep going on. The next one that's coming up is this. You have a few minutes to consider this. All right, are we finished reading? Yes, no, maybe? Yes. All right, very good. So can somebody tell me the thing that I asked you before, something that happens in the case study, the premise? Do you remember?
Premise
The
is the
changes. Yeah, go ahead.
You can go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Why don't
the
you go
cha-
ahead?
Yeah. So the changes like the new recruits and offering them the transit. Sorry, I lost it. I mean, accommodating the new recruits in the that other area, and then giving them the allowance or like the extra facility without their hierarchy rather than the way they come in the queue.
Yeah, not on hierarchy, but
Yeah.
instead on the date of joining.
The transit accommodation. Sorry, I lost it. Actually, they in a different accommodation they are being accommodated, and they are not being accommodated on the basis of their hierarchy rather than the way they come
Yeah.
in. So the first come first serve sort of system.
Yes, that's it. Right. So we can see the situation that is forming here. Could you think about a couple of the problems that might arise out of this system of placement, housing placement?
Maybe some scientist, like he's a senior and he needs the accommodation on very, very urgent basis. So the questions
Right.
come of hierarchy and all that.
Yep, fair. Anything else? Two people raised
Subordinate
hands.
clashes.
Okay. On what basis though? Why would people clash?
I mean, since
Yeah, go ahead.
Since they are seniors, they would expect that they get certain benefits of their hierarchy, and get a better
Also,
preference.
also they might argue that they are seniors, so they have more competency. So they would argue their competency on the basis, like they would argue their facilities on the basis
Right.
of their competency.
Yeah. So basically playing on the hierarchy thing. So that could very well be one of the questions coming up, or it might not be. We'll see. Does anybody else have anything else to add about the premise, or shall we move on?
Yeah, maybe there's a female scientist or maybe a junior or a senior, but she's pregnant and
Mm-hmm.
she needs a house on an urgent basis. So can we break the first come, first served rule for her?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That could be an extenuating circumstance or a special circumstance. Yeah, for sure. Let's see what the questions hold for us. Okay, some answers rolling in. So far, we've got mostly A's and D's. Only A's and D's. I'm gonna nip C in the bud right here, because if you look at the option, it says because scientists in the queue should be given priority. According to whom? I thought we weren't doing it according to hierarchy. So that's outright there on condition. Yeah, Sarvika, does that make sense? Why C could not be an answer? Okay, so we're looking at mostly A's and D's. Shall we assume that B and E are not being considered? Okay, perfect. Now between A and D, there's really only one change, isn't it? Because A is asking you to kind of go and sort it out yourself, and B is saying, no, no, wait, we'll figure it out. So out of these two options, where one is saying, go figure it out yourself, fight it out amongst yourselves, and the other is saying, same thing will happen, but we'll do it. Which one is the obvious option? Yeah. Oh, we doing it. Why is that, Rishabh?
By we, I mean the authorities here.
Okay. All right. Like we're doing it. Let's figure it out in the parking lot. Yeah. So this is like a no-brainer. Wherever you have an option in which you come down to two options, and one of them says, do it yourself, figure it out yourself. The other one says, no, no, let's have authorities figure it out. You always choose the authorities. In these cases, I'm not saying in real life this applies all the time, but remember, we're thinking about the right thing to do and the best thing for the largest possible group. So it sets no bad precedents, and these solves the problem. Another thing, so you remember in the beginning I said the two poles of figuring out these answers. The first one, of course, was precedent. The second one is consequence. So where the question of precedence does not really fulfill the criteria or does not clarify things any further, you also ask what would be the consequence of doing something like that. So here, if the authorities say, hey, you know what, Harsh, if you want to move next to your mother-in-law, that's fine. We don't really care, because is anybody getting cut off from the line? No. Is anybody getting skipped or jumped in the queue? No. And is everybody who was supposed to get accommodation getting accommodation? Yes, there's no delay, nothing is happening. So there is no real negative consequence. And hence, D is a very safe option, and it doesn't really put two people together to fight it out. So these are strong, benefits for choosing D. Is that okay for everybody? Or do we have any questions?
Ma'am,
All right, awesome. So,
ma'am,
yeah.
could you please
Mhm.
elaborate on option E? Like, how would E go wrong in any context? Or like, is there any context when E can be right?
Well, E, right? E for elephant, the fifth option.
Yes, ma'am.
So ignoring Harsh's request since it violates the housing policy will simply saying will simply set a very harsh precedent that the community or the authorities do not really consider employee requests, because while I understand, and Smriti's joke is right, that it's not a great reason to want to live next to somebody that my mother-in-law lives alone, but it's also not a crazy reason. It's understandable, and again, on humanitarian grounds, it's perfectly logical to do so. So if somebody guys, if somebody wants to appeal this request and somebody just completely gets ignored, I'm not even saying they get denied. This is ignoring, and that sends a really harsh message down the line, because it's not like Harsh is not going to tell other people. He is. And then, this will, of course, generate negativity. It might send messages of hostility or the authorities not caring. And you don't want that to happen. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great. Welcome. Okay, I think we can come back from the mother-in-law joke. Maybe the mother-in-law is just like a really lovely old lady who needs help. Okay, why are we automatically jumping onto the Sas Bahu K-serial narrative of mother-in-laws? Mother-in-laws can be fun, I've heard. Okay, moving on. This is interesting. We've got A, C, and D, and yeah, that's it so far. B says inform wrong, that nothing can be done since that issue. So this is very similar to ignore. So yeah, that's not a good option. Move wrong to the top of the queue. Yeah, we're not going to do that. There is no circumstance to warrant that. Make a rule signed as rating parents. Yeah, it's too excessive for one person. Right, let's have a look-see, shall we? So we have got C, A, and D. A, negotiate and arrive at a consensus with the two scientists. Remember, we don't leave two people to figure it out with fisticuffs. So here as well, we're not going to think about, leaving people to their own devices and figuring it out, and then giving this consensus of who lives to tell the tale to the CEO that they should implement. It's a bit excessive. And then we have C and D. So C, facilitating Rawang in getting a house in the city and free commutation for the first 3 months so that he will have some time to settle in. Or ask him to meet with the director of FIRSTCA and present his case to get an exception. I will give you 2 words. Think about the precedent and think about the consequence. Which of these between C and D would be ideal?
Consequence? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, C option would be more ideal.
Okay. Right. Anshuman, could you explain why you're considering E?
I think since healing parents is a humanitarian ground, so even if you give someone preference on that ground, although it's a very personal perspective, I think, but I think obviously,
I say so. I think you answered your own question there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Because, so I'll put it in a different way. I'm not saying that ailing parents do not deserve or do not warrant kindness and exceptional treatment. What I'm saying is that that's not the only circumstance in a person's personal life, family life, where they might need special circumstances. So by making a rule for scientists with ailing parents, you're basically saying this is the only thing that matters in your life for us. Nothing else compares. So that's not okay. So the answer here is C, although I will say that I understand that it's not a great option. It's not. But if you look at the chaos in this question, there is so much happening. There's so many families involved. There's so many people. And what would lessen the precedent of this happening all the time and people having to, or the CAO having to figure out where to place home, and which will cause the least amount of consequence for not just them, but also for the people to come, for the other scientists who might learn about this. That's C. It just kind of removes the larger problems from the situation and places it slightly outside.
Excuse me, ma'am.
And sometimes that's the right thing to do. Yes, but just for you, raise your hand. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, but choosing option C again, lets in a whole lot of problems. Like there can be, like this was a humanitarian problem. Let's say there can be physical problems to other scientists and all. And what do we know? Like we might have to set up a whole new society for these scientists. That's why I chose A, because D also shows that as a CEO, as a CAO, we are non-competent, that we can solve the issue on ourselves. That's why I chose A, so that owing to the humanitarian grounds, the 3 persons can solve it out on their own. Like I know you in the previous question you said that we don't leave it to them. Yet in this situation, it's not a business oriented, but more a humanitarian oriented question.
Exactly, and that's why. Don't you think that individual people with individual sentimental drive that they have will have a harder time figuring out this problem than, let's say, a centralized authority which says, okay, we're going to think about what will best work for most of the people. So you're right in saying that this is humanitarian, but it's also very human. And from it says C doesn't actually solve much of the problem. I fully agree. I think none of they solve the problem. I think they kind of delay it, because I have a feeling that wrong is going to have some trouble with commute as well, and he's going to come back complaining about this in a few months. But we will not be here, so who cares? I'm also regretting a little bit not Googling the name wrong, Vigrude. I want to think that it's an international name from some country, some nationality, but I also think that there's a joke in there which I'm not able to quite crack. Is it wrong recruit?
Maybe he's wrong recruit.
Yeah. Option C is not changing things much. Instead of studio apartment, equivalent of HRA, the company is getting a house and commute is already provided. Yeah. So do you agree that this is kind of maintaining the status quo and giving a way out, or do you not agree? Mahekpreet, you agree? Yeah, exactly. It's not creating any further problems, And yeah, of course, it will not be free.
Then
There's
what
no
about the
making
people
it
who
will be.
did cut, who did get cut? Are they not the stakeholders who are being affected negatively for it?
What
He's in
people
the
got cut?
he's in the queue position as third. What about the second and first? They are still there. Why are they getting cut? This is essentially the same as moving to the top of the queue if you're giving him the house right away.
Are they giving the house right away? No, they're not.
Yes, but I'm saying that there's no discernible difference that in between moving someone to the top of the queue and giving it to them right away.
They are not giving the house in the campus. They are just giving a house in the city, any other house for a temporary basis. And the queue is for the houses within the campus.
Yeah, and
So
nobody's getting cut out of the queue. The two people will still remain and they will be in their positions. In fact, the fourth person now will become the third person because one person has been eliminated from the queue.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think he would have been eliminated, right? He would still be third, like he's just being temporarily shifted to other house,
Yeah,
I guess.
that's what I think, that option 3 is like a very temporary, like immediate
It is.
solution.
It is temporary because if you look at the STEM here, perceived. So first of all, the CAO is making this decision. It's not everybody else involved, and that's why there will be some maybe difference in perspective, but also as the most appropriate by all the stakeholders. The stakeholders in this case would be the queue, the people in the queue, our man wrong, and the CAOM and the authorities. So considering all of these people, and of course, I think also to an extent the fact that the sister and the ailing parents and all of these other people. So for them to quickly find some place to just, for now, go and live there, get started on the work, and then maybe figure out what can be done best later is the ideal option. And yeah, Pramit is right. Sometimes we need to really try to adopt the approach how the question set is thinking. Yeah, sad how true that is, but I can't disagree here. It is absolutely true. Although I will say that it doesn't really come down to an individual's perspective. Looking at all of the options that we have here, we don't really have a lot of great options, to follow through after C. So C still stands out. Krishna, did you just raise your hand now?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I think you need to go ahead and lower your hand then.
Oh, okay.
Do you know how to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right. So on this contentious moment, shall we move on to the next question then? Yeah. Okay. This is the last one for this. Yeah. So I think most of us, not everybody, everybody is choosing the right answer, which is A. Very quickly, do you want to quickly sound off in the comments telling me why all the other options are not great? Just write it out. What is wrong with B?
It does not make their life comfortable in any way. The issue is noise, and giving them any kind of money is not solving the problem.
Very good. Thank you. What is the problem with C?
So the top management is not the decision maker for the factory.
Absolutely. Unnecessary escalation of a very simple, not a simple problem, but a problem nonetheless, which is at a lower level.
I mean, even if they are like the authority, still for the 5 days, the sound would be an issue, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So only one option addresses the problem, and all the others are sort of your carrot and stick approach or a misdirection or some sort of a distraction. And that's why you've got A. Yes, that is true. That is correct. And that brings us to the end of 2 DM studies. Let's very quickly take a moment here because we're just out of time now in 20 minutes. Is everybody okay with the pace of the workshop here? Am I rushing through things? Am I going too slow? Or
Might
you're
be
okay?
too slow considering we only did 2.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We can do. Thank you. We can do a little bit faster and hopefully get through. But there are certain discussions which need to be had.
Yes, ma'am.
And yeah. And are we also starting to learn a few of the patterns and how we're doing this? Because remember, it's always great to have these discussions, and I'm having fun having the interaction and all of that. But ultimately, it should be informing to your preparedness to solve a DM effectively. So I hope that is happening now.
Yes, ma'am. This will definitely help.
Okay.
I have
All
a
right.
query here.
Yes.
In option B, like generally like in most of the industries, there is some sort of an allowance which has been given. Like if in coal plant or power plant industries, if people are working in the coal department, so they are being given an allowance of working in that sort of a situation. So here, staying in that highly noisy area, like giving that 15% basic salary, I mean that sort seemed to pretty much relatable to the real life situation. So I kind of inclined to B. Like I kind of got inclined to B, but like thinking that prospect. So like was I mean like when to relate it to the real life situation and when not to, like how to create that distinction.
So the easy answer here is to never relate it to a real life situation, because you will then end up constructing stories around a very limited context. Okay. And what that does is makes possibilities for us to allow our own opinions, our own judgments, our own experiences to inform the choices. And that's not okay, because all we have to go on is this little context on the page. And that's all we know.
Yeah.
Aside from that, the only thing that we rely on is our general universal understanding of the right thing to do. And that's what we are here to think about, that are we on the same page when it comes to doing the right thing? And yes, we are. Mostly people are correct, unless you're like a sociopath or something. But yeah, so we don't really think about it. And also to the point that when, companies give hardship allowances, they're doing it because something about that job is costing the person their health or their well-being. That's not happening here. This is just an external noise that happens to be of the same factory for which they're employed, but the noise is not a direct consequence or a direct impact onto the employees. It's a disturbing factor. So that's not quite the same thing. Yeah. Okay, there's nothing else. Let's move on to the next case study. Here we go.
Why are the title "Let's Slide into Some DMs"?
Oh my God! Did nobody catch this?
Direct
it's a
messages.
pun.
Instagram
Direct
DMs.
messages.
Have I failed? Yeah. Fox, did you get it?
Yes, ma'am. It's a pun. I got it. The moment I
Puns
said
are
it, like
all
when
I
I said
have.
it out loud, it made sense. But like when I was reading it, was
Yeah, puns are all I have. This is all I bring to the workshop. Puns and answers.
Reading the title, I thought the first set will be of some HR issue and all, the ethical HR issue.
I didn't even notice in the second problem. And in the second problem, I was thinking the same, that it would be related to that, but no.
Yeah, no, it's just so common. And with the whole thing of who's that guy from Maroon 5, that whole Adam Levine controversy of him sliding into supermodels with BMs and all that. I couldn't help myself. Anyway, sorry. How can we stop a human brain from making mistakes? We really can't, Smriti. And I think that is the bigger test here. Okay, this is a short and sweet one. Are we good to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else? Okay, here's. I'm not going to ask you what's happening here. It's a very, very straightforward study, so I very much quickly want to jump into the questions. Here's the first one. There's C, there's A, lots of C, A, C and A. Any other options aside from C and A? No, doesn't look like it. Okay, skip. All right, why don't we start with the reasoning for why C and why A? Somebody who's chosen A, could you explain?
For A, like he has already 30% revenue coming even when his store is not in Ramnagar. Once he opens his store in Ramnagar, that 30% will still remain and their chances of getting more revenue is quite high.
Okay, good. And what about the people choosing C? Anyone? Maybe Vagisan and there's somebody else who's seen Nandini.
Since he's already okay, Krishna, you go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Like he already has a connection set up over in Ramnagar, so like he has a base there. So setting up a branch won't be much of a task, and like it won't be much of a difficulty over there. And he will have the market, like he'll have the customers for his stuffs over there. So
this is your reasoning for C.
C, yeah.
Because he has already. He has already been supplied to bakeries.
Yeah. So
right, but supplying to bakeries and creating your own clientele, aren't they two different things? Because nobody knows what bakeries get supplied, where bakeries get their supplies from, right? Like, do you know where your bakery supplies come from? Not really. So converting a background.
No, but I do know that if like my supplies are getting sold out, like my customers in my sellers in Ramnagar are requiring my breaks over there time and time and again.
Mhm.
So I see that my stuffs are being getting sold out quickly. So
Right.
rather than like I can remove the middleman from there and I can set up my own branch over there. So that would be a direct kind of a stuff for me.
But my question still remains. See, I understand your point that the baked goods are doing well. They're successful. They're selling out. Great. But who is selling them out? Isn't that also a big question? And how will people identify that this is the same person who supplies to our bakery? That's a bit of a leap, isn't it, in terms of business? Just thinking about the success of the business. I
And
think that
can
would
we
be,
say that the customer base already has an acquired taste to our product, and then if we go there and remove the middleman, we might be able to sell them at a reduced price. It might take time, but they will eventually figure out, like, according to the taste, and
yeah.
we will
So
be able
here
to
I will introduce, yes, I mean, you can say that. That is not a flawed reasoning. And you have already pointed out a bit of a flaw here, not a flaw, but like a hindrance, which is that of time and acquiring or shifting the clientele from one baker to the other.
Ma'am.
So there's lots of little ifs and buts that might occur. Yes, Paul.
Ma'am, if we look at the start, it says before starting his own bakery. So this could be very well in the past. So we don't even know what the current situation is, and we're trying to support a decision in the present.
Yeah,
Could we
yeah,
tell him to
yeah.
do this and
Pramit
that?
also said that. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. But there's too many little things that we will have to keep in mind and do the if and but thing, and that's not ideal. So again, we're thinking of how many follow-up questions will come up after we make this choice, and that's why I think the longer the list of follow-up questions, the worse the option becomes. Pramit says, who is to tell the current bakeries have not opened for similar opted for? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That it's very difficult to pinpoint if the customers are willingly and knowingly buying from Jagdeep, knowing that Jagdeep is the supplier, or they're just going to their favorite bakery because it has good stuff, you know. Okay, so also we don't know about any middlemen existing
Ma'am,
in this
am I audible?
Yes.
Actually, in reasoning one, ma'am, both the towns are 15 kilometers apart, and his bakery is the share of revenue of his bakery is coming from 30% of the other town. So maybe this reasoning can be correct that if 30% is coming from the other town, maybe the product quality is very good, and and as a customer loyal base, he wants to increase his revenue on the other town also. So maybe you want to acquire a good profit share of that town also.
It is the same town. Ramnagar is the town where his
Yeah,
sales are coming, and that's where he wants to set up. So it makes sense.
yeah, because
That's what
I
you're
think he's
saying, right?
betting on his quality, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yes, great. So the answer is A. And yeah, another thing very quickly I want to point out before I forget is that sometimes when the options give you too many little details and too many little, pieces of information which seem like, oh, these are important percentages and figures and facts and stuff, it's really mostly to, misalign you from the right option that maybe does not have a lot of numbers. In this case, it does. But if you look at option D and option E, they're both doing the same thing. Served by 4 bakeries, with 2 largest bakeries having market share of 55-25. Who cares? It's not really about the market share. It's about the impact that a bakery has on its clientele. And again, who's to say that Jagdeep will work or not? But for now, the decision seems sensible enough because a large part of his profit is coming from Ramnagar already. So yeah. Okay. Next up. Yeah.
Ma'am, on C option, why can't we mark it? Because I thought Jagdeep was supplying bread to most bakeries in Ramnagar, so I thought it would be profitable for him to do that. That's why he's thinking of opening a bakery there. So won't it be correct with that point
No,
of view?
because it's correct that he's supplying, but again, the point is he's the supplier, he's not the seller. So if he opens up his own bakery in this scenario, first of all, how will you determine whether people recognize his products to be the same as the ones that they like from their own bakery? And like a couple of people have pointed out, we don't know how long it has been between this supply work and the bakery business. So there are too many ifs that we will have to explore. So while this is not a bad option, I'm saying that we have a better one available with data. So we choose that.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, can you just go back to the case study once? I just missed.
There you are.
Oh, thank you. You can move.
So let's do this together a little bit because I know that it can get a little confusing. Let's look at the patterns that we can identify here. Two options begin with 5, two options begin with 2, one option begins with 4. So we first want to find out whether it's 5, 2, or 4. For a 100% eggless branch in Ramnagar, these are the facts, and we're looking at descending order, so that's the highest to lowest. And 4 says La Baguette currently makes 3% of its revenue from Ramnagar customers, and all of it comes from eggless products. Okay, it is important. 2 says at least 20% of all bakery sales in Ramnagar is from eggless products. Okay, so this fact trumps number 4 just a little bit, don't you think? That the information in 2 trumps the information in 4 by a little bit. Okay. And then we have, what was the other option? 5. La Croissant's Ramnagar branch struggles with a market share of 10%. Okay, so I think since we're talking about La Baguette, I don't think including anything in terms, including any information from La Croissant will be helpful in this time. Okay, people are saying C now. Before they were saying A. A is 5 to 1. So yeah, I will safely rule out any option that has 5 in it because 5 is a related fact, but it's not an immediately relevant fact. And that's because we have other, yeah.
In the case study, it mentions Le Croissant does not provide eggless variants. Would that not be the reason that their market share is so low?
Who's to say? I don't have that information, neither do you.
But
Right,
we
so
do
that's
know that
how
they
we-
do not provide eggless variety.
Yes, we do. But we also don't know. We also don't know whether the struggle for the market share is happening because of that or not. What we do know is that Jagdeep has the wish to open 100% eggless, and the fact that La Baguette, Jagdeep's bakery, is doing well because they have eggless. But that does not mean that La Croissant is not doing well because they have eggless.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Your classic Venn diagram. We need to eliminate options with 3 in them. Yes. Could you tell us why, Samit?
Ma'am, because the eggless varieties of La Baguette contain minute traces of egg is
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead. Yes, that's completely true. So we're looking at now not B and not D. We're also not looking at E and A. Oh, there you are. That's the answer. Then C is the answer. 2, 4, 1 in that order. Okay, so very quickly, I will say why we put 2 at the top of it. We are looking at descending order, so the most important and then the least important. The most important is the fact that all bakery sales in Ramnagar, not just his, not La Baguette, not La Croissant, but all bakery sales are coming from eggless products. So there is definitely a precedent set. There is definitely a market for eggless baked goods. The next important thing is that La Baguette currently makes 3% of its revenue from Ramnagar and all of it from eggless. So that confirms it that eggless products have a strong market. And then finally, eggless products account for 30% of La Baguette sales. So not only is Ramnagar responding positively to eggless products, but La Baguette's own business is doing well. So when he opens the eggless branch in Ramnagar, he has a very strong reason to believe that it will do well. And so there you have it. You have the 3 options. Unless there are very pressing concerns, we can move on. Okay, so we'll be able to do the last question here, which I'm happy about. That will only leave me with the last case study. And don't worry, these are not things that I have created. These are past question papers from 2020 and 2022, freely available on the internet. But if you want, I can send this to Matthew and he can share it with you. Okay, in the interest of time and for simplicity, I will tell you the answer here, and then why don't you tell me whether you will getting close to it or whether you just don't agree. So the answer here is D, 23514. That's D for Delta, 23514.
Ma'am, how point 2 can be the most effective point because only 7% of Jagdish's regular customer own baking ovens, which is not a big number.
According to whom?
I don't know. Is 7% a big number? I don't know.
It's not a big. Sure, but see, you don't know whether 7% is a large percentage of customers or a small percentage. That will come from further research. Right now, it's the only criteria we have, and we don't have any comparatives. So we don't really think of it in terms of a comparative number, but a value that we have.
And we could think in like 93% of them don't. So that is kind of big, right? So
right. But then I could come back to you with saying that do other bakers have similar problems with, let's say, 11% of their customers? So you see how this would never come to an end. We will just keep quoting numbers. So unless we have an actual figure to compare it to, we're going to have to see this as in an absolute.
And like how like the customers owning their own baking ovens in their home is going to help in making the decision.
So for that, why don't you first tell me what the decision is? Excuse me.
That whether to have ovens to like should he have ovens so that he can make ready to bake products? If I'm reading it correctly.
So he learns that Americans use their own ovens to bake ready-to-bake products sold by some bakeries. So bakeries sell ready-to-bake products, and then people buy them and use their own ovens to bake them, finish
Oh,
baking them.
okay, okay,
And
okay.
this is, that's what, yeah,
Oh, got it. Got it.
yeah. The minute you understand what he's trying to do, you will see points 2 and points 5 becoming very clearly important, because they're directly addressing Jagdeep's question. So if Jagdeep already has, even if it's a small base, what I'm saying is that there is a base. And Jagdeep is not saying that he's going to change his entire business model and now become completely home to oven or home to bakery to oven product seller. No, he's just introducing the idea. And then point 5, in Indian metros, ready to bake products give higher profit margins. So there's also profit. Putting that into view, option D becomes a strong contender for the descending order. Okay, radio silence on all fronts. And we're officially over time.
Actually, we can say that option 2 is only being applicable here because it is followed by option 3. Means otherwise it wouldn't have been. Means
Yes,
option, sorry,
true.
not option, but the point 2 is followed by point 3.
Yeah.
That
Yes. Oh, was that somebody's phone? Yes, you're right. No, those are my earphones. Anyway, yes, you're right, because we're looking at the best of the following sequence. We're already in agreement that all the facts are important, but in what order would they be important to Jagdeep to make this decision? That's what we're looking at. So for that, that's D. Because if there is no evidence of client base, then there is no point in Jagdeep, taking this chance. So the fact that there is a 7% evidence gives him, the footing to make this possibility happening. And then you have the sale of baking oven is forecast to increase by 12% every year. That means there is a precedent that people will be buying it more and more. Follow that up with the fact that in Indian markets, there is a higher profit margin. So not only does that give, Jagdeep a good reason to do that, people to buy baked goods or semi-baked goods, it gives Jagdeep also the incentive to go and make this investment at whatever scale that is appropriate. Yes, D. Okay, so D is the answer here. And on that, we're going to finish. Let's have a look right here on, this is the last study, but I will share it with you afterwards. So what stands out? I'm going to give you a moment here and to go through these points.
How often are we going to have these classes?
Oh, that I'm afraid is Maxi and Chandra's department. I'm just a visiting facilitator. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that. Sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Ma'am, the only thing is how absolute choices seldom win. This can be a big trap because absolute choices means it will seem very obvious and so like that.
I think absolute is like not means obvious here. I guess it's like too strong, maybe.
Yeah, you remember the ones in which people were getting terminated or just telling.
Okay, extremes.
So,
yeah, I understand.
Yeah, we don't really look at extreme choices. And answerability matters. So if a choice makes somebody answerable to someone, they should have a good enough, response to come back to. Otherwise, that's a problem. And similarly, of course, sneakiness, underhandedness, deceit, never the answer. Any parting thoughts? Questions, comments, queries?
Nope, lovely session. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Great, everybody. I hope that at least 50 to 60%, thank you, Megpreet, made sense to you. I'm glad that everybody was responsive here. It was really great time that I had, and I hope that I see you another time. If not, then all the very best for all of your upcoming examinations, and season's greetings, I guess. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I just had one doubt. Like, what are some reliable sources to get SAT past year papers and solutions? Because on most of the sources, answers, especially for decision making, differ.
Yeah, they do. So Massey and I both think that 2IIM is a good source. They typically, I took these ones as well from there, and they're a reliable source. They typically match the answers. So yeah, you can check that out. 2IIM. Just numeric.
Sure.
IIM. You must know the site.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, everybody, have a good evening and hope to see you around. All the best. Take care.